Good afternoon from Snake Mountain Boat Works on Tuesday, January 27. We're experiencing what at least all the talking heads on cable and elsewhere are claiming is the blizzard of the, I don't know when, but up here in Vermont, this isn't much of a blizzard. Anyway, we thought it might be interesting, since so many Lyman owners populate the northeastern United States and then throughout Sandusky and Ohio and the west and Midwest and then up into the Northwest, to follow the work we're going to do on this 1968 20-foot Lyman runabout that has come into the shop. As you can see, right now we are focused on stripping the bottom. RJ's having all the fun he could possibly want today, and in truth, my idea to start shooting this video was to have an excuse to stop stripping the bottom. But we've been working on it today. We have it 90% stripped, and RJ's now going through a final coat. So let's do a walk around and take a look at some of the issues we will be encountering as we work on Knock on Wood, as she is named, this 20-foot 1968 Lyman. One of the first things you'll notice is that she must have hit something hard at some point, because this carriage bolt is just plain gone, and the stem is distorted as a result. The brass protection strip that comes down the stem and would continue running along the stem just about to where the jack stand is just simply gone. So it'll be interesting to see what we find after she dries out from the stripping, and whether or not we can simply replace this missing or probably broken carriage bolt and be able to draw the stem in against the knee on the backside. And as we move around to the port side, you can see that clearly this stem has moved away from the leading edges of the strakes at the bow. As we move back, one of the really positives on this boat is that the keel and the underside of the boat are just as true and fair as they can possibly be. Yes, we'll be filling screw holes and fairing a bit more, but unlike most of the Lymans we have ever worked on, this boat seams between the strakes are really quite tight. You'll notice that the edges of the strakes are nice and sharp. So we're not going to face a great deal of fairing. We will face cleaning out many of these countersink holes. You can see right in this section, we're looking at screw heads. These have to be reset. These all have to be reset. Actually, they all have to be reset in this section, and we'll come upon others. So the good news is that below the waterline, at least until we get to the transom, we've been asked and honored to work on a Lyman that is really in pretty good shape. We'll scrape this down to as close to bare wood as we can, sand it fair, fill all the screw heads, tighten where necessary, replace where broken, and then we will be applying 5 coats of Interlux 2000E barrier coat to ensure that the below waterline strakes are never assaulted by excessive moisture again. And When we talk about excessive moisture, we come to our challenge. This boat has lived in the water, fresh water, from end of May through probably early September, every year of her life for at least a decade. She seemed to have bottom paint on her, but as we can see, as we've stripped it, clearly that bottom paint failed. The plywood has delaminated. Somebody at one point tried some sort of a patch at this point, and rather than doing a mahogany Dutchman patch, they just globbed on some white stuff. And when we started working on this boat, there was a black line painted across to hide this. But the real problem, and the amazing thing to us, is that as we started cleaning all this out, and we noticed all of this filler right at the lower edge and lower areas of the transom, and we pressed a little bit with our tools, the tools went right in. And in fact, at this point, the tool went all the way through and just simply disappeared. But what's particularly intriguing is this boat has been with us, I'm trying to remember, but I believe since September. She's not been in the water. She's not been outdoors. She spent her time in cold storage with her mooring cover on. But what's amazing is when RJ was pounding with the handle on his scraper across here and got to this point, the scraper disappeared and in he went. He cleaned out a little bit of this wood. It's all rotted, and it just started dripping water. Today is, if I read the calendar correctly, which is always a challenge for me, we're in late January. This boat has not been in the water since September. When we get to the other side and look inside, the support piece here is totally rotted. There is on every Lyman, all the Lyman owners will recognize a long interior plank that runs just inside the transom and secures the transom and the aft end of the bottom strakes to one another. At least to here, that plank is just toast. It's just dust. You can tear it apart. So what do we do? Well, we could pull out the whole transom, buy a new blank for, upwards of $800 by the time it finally got here, install it, refasten it inside and out, and then begin attempting the challenge of making it look like a 1968 transom. Well, from our perspective, that's nothing more than a fool's errand. Why spend $5,000 to $10,000 when 80% of the transom is excellent? We can sand and fair, bleach and stain everything above the waterline, and we'll have a great result. So what do we do down here? Our answer is to experiment once again with what will end up being the biggest Dutchman that Snake Mountain Boat Works has ever attempted. We will route this out, going all the way through where we must, release that interior framing member way at the bottom and replace it, and then repair this area with a Dutchman. It's painted after all, so we don't have to worry much about grain direction, grain pattern. Fasteners can be countersunk and filled with Interlux Premium Marine 2-part epoxy filler and fairing compound, and we should get a good result. So we leave you today with, knock on wood, in her current condition, And as we make progress, we will update you, and we invite the legions of Lyman owners across the land to weigh in with their ideas, their suggestions, and their comments. Thank you so much. Goodbye for today from Snake Mountain Boat Works.